Hey YouTube, I'm Ali, welcome to the channel and welcome to yet another game review, this time for a Ticket to Ride. And this is the 10th anniversary edition. And yes, I am aware that I'm 6 years too late, but what you gonna do? So, Ticket to Ride takes place in the 1900s in America. Well, this version does at least, anyway. Train journeys have just become a thing, and we as players have decided to take part in a bet. That bet is for $1 million American dollars, and the winning conditions for the bet are to visit the most number of American cities as we can in just 7 days. Now, that all said and done, Ticket to Ride is really a game about victory points. The winner is the one with the most victory points at the end of the game. Now, each player will have a different colour and you'll have a lot of little tiny carriages. That's important to know because when those carriages run out, that's when the game is over. Now, the way you get victory points is by completing destination quests, and those are printed on destination cards, obviously. Now, a destination card will have 2 cities printed on there, a starting and an ending, and all you need to do is lay down onto the board your carriages, your carriage colours, in a line between those. Sometimes it's a direct route and there'll just be one city and another city directly connected. Sometimes you might have to wander around the board to other cities to connect them. It kind of doesn't matter so long as those 2 cities end up connected. Now, what may surprise you, because I haven't mentioned it yet, is that you also get this big deck of 110 coloured train cards. Unsurprising perhaps in a game about trains, but these train cards are different colours and you'll be collecting those each round. The reason you're collecting them is to be able to match them to a particular track that you want to claim and put your carriages onto. Those tracks are different colours. The idea is if there's a track between, let's say, Kansas City and Denver, that's orange, and is 4 segments long, you'll need 4 orange cards from that train deck in order to be able to claim that track and put your carriages down onto it. And that's where the interaction, by the way, comes in, because you're all going to be aiming ultimately for the same little bits of track. Throughout the game, you can choose to take more destination cards if you want, and that gives you the possibility of earning more victory points, which increases your chances to win. But you've got to be warned, because if you take a if you take a destination card at the end of the game that you have not completed, they will count against you and you'll lose whatever victory points you would have won at the end. So there we go. That's how you play the game, and that's how you win. Victory points, very simple. So Ticket to Ride is very much a family game. You can absolutely play this with kids. There's no adult theme, so you're good. I wouldn't go too young, maybe 6 or so, and that's only because the pieces get quite small and fiddly, and that's literally the only reason. I think the actual game itself is totally understandable by very young kids, though there is a version of this game available for the youngsters too. In terms of number of players, 2 to 5, yeah, okay. I would always prefer playing this with 4 to 5 players. I've definitely played it a number of times with 4 players, occasionally with 5. 4 players is better. 2-player games, there's less interaction with 2-player games. The board is huge and the chances of you meeting aren't that great with 2 players, but I'll come on to that later. Duration, I would definitely set aside about an hour for this game. An hour's a good time. With 4 players, or even with less actually, set aside an hour. Type of game, this is very much a board game, and what a board. It's an enormous board. You're going to need plenty of space to play this game, as well as having your own little sort of space to put down your cards and tokens and whatnot. So yeah, definitely something you cannot play whilst traveling. Now, in terms of rule complexity, this is pretty simple. It took us about a minute and a half to read, so I'm going to go medium for rules. Very, very quick to explain, less than a minute to explain the basic premise and rules to someone on how to play. So pretty simple. So I'm going to go medium for complexity, nothing too difficult there. In terms of depth, there is definitely some strategy in this game. There are some crafty little things you can do about foiling other people's routes and snatching certain cards, and we'll come on to certain cards in a little while when we look inside the box. In principle, I would say this is probably medium complexity. Nothing too difficult, nothing too light, a little bit of strategy there. In terms of interactions, this is an indirect conflict, so you are definitely gunning for each other, but you don't necessarily have to pick one individual to gun for, and you can have some cooperation. There are alliances that you can form, but they never last. And finally, is this a single-player game or is it a team-player game? Oh, it's very much a single-player game. Everyone's out for themselves in this game. So that's my description. 3 simple mechanics in this game. We're trying to connect City A to City B, so of course connections is my first mechanic. We're going to do that by playing those coloured cards, if you remember, which shouldn't be hard because it was like 5 minutes ago. Those coloured cards need to be collected in sets, so in fact set collection is my second mechanic here. You're going to collect sets of coloured cards, and the way you're going to get those sets of coloured cards is by drafting them into your hand each round. So in fact my third mechanic is card drafting. There we go. So what do we get inside the box? Well, let's start with the box itself. It's a big box, way bigger than it needs to be. But this is the anniversary edition, so I suppose I can be a little bit more forgiving. Let's look inside though, and what we start off with is... Pardon me. What we start off with is the rulebook. A nice big colourful rulebook, very easy to read, available in a number of different languages in one pamphlet, so that's quite good. Very simple to understand, very happy with that. The next thing I'm going to go to is the board. The board is enormous, like everything else in this game. This occupies a lot of space. Here we go. It's folded up into quarters or sixths, I can't tell. I think it's sixths. There we go. And here is an example of the tracks I was talking about. So you can see for Los Angeles to San Francisco, there are 2 tracks available. There are 3 segments, so you would need 3 yellow cards or 3 pink cards to play in order to be able to put your carriages down. Anyway, that's the board. Nice big thick cardboard, but very big. Occupies a lot of space. Now let's have a quick look at those cards that I was talking about and what you get here. In fact, let me just hold this up because this is rather nice. This, in the anniversary condition, is the inlay that you get. It's a little more than you need, but it's really nicely displayed. So you get player tokens. Each player has a different colour and the victory points are indicated around the board. You just put your coloured token down on there. You get these deck of cards here. These are your destination cards. Let's have a quick look at those now very quickly. So for example, this is Seattle to Oklahoma City, which you probably can't see at all, but it's worth 14 points if you complete it. Now the other thing here are those big deck of coloured cards that you use to fill in the tracks. So here we've got a sort of yellowy one, we've got a blue one there. But anyway, whole deck of cards. So that's what you're drafting from. Now the bit that I get excited about is those little carriages. And what I really like about this edition, at least, is that everyone gets their own little tin. Every player gets their own little tin of carriages. And they get a named tin. So this one is the Circus Railway, and here are those really delightful little carriages that you connect up. So if there's a track of 3 segments between 2 cities, then you would put down 3 of these little carriages next to each other, claiming it as your own. Like I said, when you run out of these, the game ends. But really nice. Once again, do I need all of that inset? Because of the size of the box, and it's the anniversary edition, I'm going to let it go. It is really nice, actually, so I quite like it. Anyway, that's the box. Oops. Everything about this game cries out early 1900s train travel, which makes the theme very enjoyable. Does the theme and mechanics, do they fit well to each other? Yes, I think they do. They fit really well. If I was going to be super picky, though, I think the actual story of a wager and trying to visit the most number of places in America in 7 days, that kind of doesn't make sense. It perhaps would have been better to imply that we were, I don't know, some sort of railroad tycoons trying to lay claim to railways around America and occupy train tracks. Possibly that made a little bit more sense to me, but that's very reminiscent of a certain other game, so perhaps that's why they chose the story they did. But overall, I really enjoyed the theme. The theme is well portrayed. The mechanics fit that theme really well in a nice, simple way. There are plenty of meaningful decisions to be made in this game. Do you choose to go for more destination cards or not? Do you go for destination cards that have a high points value but potentially take longer to complete? Or do you go for shorter destinations which potentially may have more competition even though they require less cards? Now, when it comes to Pathways to Victory, I'm going to say there aren't that many actually in this game. Really, this is a game about points value, which I have already said, and you're going to get that by simply completing destinations. There are a couple of extra bonuses you can pick up for having the longest track in there, but in terms of routes or pathways to win, it's not that many. Like I said, complete the connections and away you go. Now, skill versus luck, I think, is well balanced in this game. You can be a veteran of this game and you can be a beginner and still have a fair game with each other. So I think skill versus luck is well balanced. Am I engaged when I play this game? Very much so. This is a game with limited downtime because most of the actual rounds are quite quick. You're either picking up cards or laying down carriages, or that's pretty straightforward and simple, not too much to think about at that time. But while that's going on, you've got a little opportunity there to think about your next move and also to keep an eye out and make sure that the track you're trying to take isn't already being gunned for, because if it is, it changes what cards you're going to be collecting in the set collection piece. Finally, then we come on to iconography and legible text. Beautiful iconography, beautiful artwork. All the pieces and cards fit really well. The tracks are big enough to allow carriages to sit on them quite comfortably. It didn't get too crowded. It's a big board because of that, I think, which I've mentioned a couple of times now. But yeah, really, really nice looking game. So full marks. So that's another game review over and done with, and I really enjoyed this one because I really do like Ticket to Ride. It's a great game to play with new board gamers and seasoned board gamers alike. It plays in about an hour, doesn't take too long to explain, and is very colourful and fun to look at too. So I personally really like it. I hope I've given you enough information to make your own minds up in this vid too. If you've enjoyed the vid, please consider subscribing. At least give me a thumbs up because damn it, I need those. But until next time, guys, take care.